What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the Locks DFS NBA Breakdown video. I'm your host, Christian Hardy, and I'm going to be going through this Wednesday 11-game NBA slate. We got a lot of situations to get through. Here's where I am on Twitter, @ByHardy. Like I said, I'm ByHardy on DraftKings as well. I am from LocksDFS.com, a provider of DFS content where we give you guys our value stud and player grades, as well as our daily locks, of course, and lock sheet and the analysis. Check us out, LocksDFS.com. Go there to get your subscription, and let's go ahead and jump in. Oh, of course, per usual, we'll go ahead and go over DraftKings real quick. But per usual, of course, if you comment on this video, as we do for every single video, you have a chance to win a free season pass from LocksDFS.com. We'll be recording that Thursday night showdown video tonight, so this will be your last chance to enter that contest, where we'll announce that the winner of that pass on the Thursday night showdown video. So. With that said, let's go ahead and jump into this slate. Like I said, we have an 11-game slate, so lots of situations, also lots of injuries. Like Kyrie has been ruled out. We know that Kawhi is going to play at this point. D'Angelo Russell's still out. Wiggins questionable. Lots of situations down lower that I'll get to. Tristan Thompson's one that's definitely worth noting. Josh Richardson is out. Corcoran's probably going to start there, I'd assume. And then, for Brooklyn as well, Karis LeVert's also out. So, Chicago, Otto Porter, Chandler Hutchinson are both out. Yeah, Hutchinson's been starting. I know most people might not know about him, but he's been starting for the Bulls. So, that'll open up some likely more minutes for Kobe White. Probably make him a little bit more interesting for and higher owned, I would think, at 5.3K on DraftKings. With that said, let's go ahead and go through my favorite plays. So, I'm going to go ahead and save the studs for the end of the video, and you guys can get them there. Three guys that I'm mostly looking at tonight in terms of studs. I mean, it's 11-game slate, so of course I'm going to have exposure to more than that. But there's two main guys that I think I'll be looking at in terms of studs. Three main guys I'll be looking at in terms of studs. But let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit at first, and let's talk about Spencer Dinwiddie, who, again, I think is just a little bit too cheap. Obviously, he's not like 6K cheap where I'm going to have way more than the field. The other day I think he was one of my highest owned players, if not my highest owned player. I had a lot of exposure to Dinwiddie. But at 7.2K, I'm still definitely interested. He's over a 1.3 fantasy points per minute producer with no Kyrie and no LeVert. He's got over 30% usage, over 30% assist rates. And Charlotte, he doesn't do a ton of rebounding, but in general, he did grab 5 rebounds last game, and Charlotte's not a good rebounding team. That should elevate that rebounding floor. That rebounding stat's going to influence other guys. And it's worth noting also, I forgot to even talk about this. There's really only this is a day where there's not a lot of interesting totals. So at 220, this is actually not a bad total on the slate. These are the only two that are popping over 230, and that's the Spurs versus Washington, which consistently are over 230 totals, Washington games, and then the Bucks, which is expected to be a blowout, but luckily it's in Atlanta, which is keeping the spread a little bit closer. If it was in if it was in Milwaukee, it would be like a 16-point spread at least, I think. But anyway, going back to Brooklyn, so there's some other prices on here too. Like Jarrett Allen has been starting, and he closed. He's been closing some games as well, and his price is up, limiting his upside a little bit. It's not a 4.9K like we got the other day, but versus Charlotte team, they give it the most points in the paint and the most rebounds in the league. So I think that's a pretty good spot. I think you get some upside there. I like the price on Taurean Prince, who plays the 4, and that should also benefit him in terms of rebounding, I think, in this game as well. Charlotte doesn't play fast or anything, so Brooklyn is playing a pace down, so you got to keep that. Take all the rebounding stats with a grain of salt, because it is going to be a pace down game for them. And then obviously on the other side, I think there's a little bit of interest as well for me, and let me see if I have it written down here. Yeah. So I think Rozier price is fine. I think if you end up on him in cash, then that's a very solid price for a guy who still looks like he's taking plenty of shots with no Devontae. The assist rate has dipped a little bit with no Devontae, or with Devontae on the floor. Sorry, with Devontae playing the 2, Devontae Graham. But yeah, I mean, I think at 6K, I think he has plenty of upside here because of how much he shoots, how much usage he gets. So he makes some sense to me. And then I think that, other than that, there's just two prices. These two prices on these big guys for Charlotte also stand out to me as well. Brooklyn team is a pretty solid rebounding team, but especially PJ Washington, for a young guy who he can shoot a few threes. He's gonna get you, like he's averaging 5 rebounds a game so far this year. He's just coming off, in this Detroit game. So basically the bench squad started running really, really well in that game, so they kept him out. And then in this game, it was a blowout. In this game, he just doesn't score, didn't get in foul trouble, just didn't have a good game. Didn't grab the rebounds that you would think he would grab against Memphis. I just think the price has come down too far. It's a guy who was 6K, just over a week ago, and at as high as 6.8K when the season started. Obviously, that price was too high. No one was really playing him there. But, he's dropped under 5K at this point. I think that's just a really, really good price for PJ Washington. As we saw last time, he dropped under 5K, 4.8. Has a good game. Makes a ton of sense. He's usually going to play 32 minutes upwards, potentially. So, like I said, I think this price is really good. And also, against Brooklyn, I think Cody Zeller is going to be on the floor a decent amount to defend with whoever they have out there, Jared Allen or DeAndre Jordan. They'll be able to transition Cody Zeller in whenever they want to get him in because his defense will be needed on the inside. Although not great defense, but still just a big interior presence in there. So I think Zeller is good for like 26 minutes at least here, 27, 28, potentially 30. And again, I think Zeller is going to be on the closing team for the most part. And to me, I think his minutes floor should come up, and I think the price here is pretty solid on a over a fantasy point per minute guy. Or not over a fantasy point per minute, on just under a fantasy point per minute guy. And that is pretty much going to do it for this game. Okay, so going on to some other games. So obviously we talked about the San Antonio and Washington game being one that we could target. DeJounte Murray is probably the price is standing out the most to me, and one that I think is going to probably become chalky. I would love to hear more about how many minutes DeJounte Murray is playing because we knew they said at the beginning of the year that DeJounte Murray would come off a minutes limit after 10 games or start to come off a 10 minutes limit. We haven't really seen that because 10 games was I think it was this game right here, Memphis, something like that. Might have been this Boston game. Somewhere in there was 10 games. And we haven't seen him get those extra minutes yet. But today we're going to see a tighter guard rotation with Derek White out. Derek White is out, so it's going to pretty much leave Murray, Forbes, and Patty Mills. So I think Murray should potentially end up with a few extra minutes. And I don't think he's going to be on that minutes limit anymore. But, man, I mean, he hasn't played a game over 25. He played 25.9 minutes the other day. We haven't seen him over that in a while. So, it's the worst rebounding team on the slate, fifth in pace. Spurs have a 119.75 team total. So even if he is only getting 24 minutes, I think he has a pretty solid floor here. I would love to see him play a little bit more, of course, today. And and the potential of that happening is what gives him the upside of this price, in my opinion. Both these Spurs guys are sort of in play, but man, we haven't seen them at this price for a while. So it's a little bit weird to see it. But of course, because of the matchup, they are both in play, in my opinion, to some extent. Not as high on DeRozan, but I think the field won't be as high on DeRozan either. So there could be an interesting tournament play for leverage. Beal could also be an interesting tournament play for leverage as well. I think. Rui Hachimura is cheap, but it's not a great rebounding matchup. Really, Murray's the only guy that's really standing out to me because these guys, you're not going to be able to depend on these guys for consistency down here. Mills can do a lot of scoring occasionally, and he is going to get more minutes, so he's probably the guy who gets the bigger boost. But both these guys have a higher minutes floor with no Derek White, and neither one is like terrible in a cash lineup, I guess. But I don't think they're like awesome smash values or anything like that. I'm interested in some of the Golden State guys as well against Dallas. Dallas isn't playing as fast this year, but they're not like down in pace or anything like that. And Golden State also has dropped down in pace as well. So this is a decent total. Let's go back to 2-7. Oh, it's actually dropped 4 points, and it's supposed to be a blowout. But these Golden State guys have been playing in blowouts because the rotation is just so tight. Unless it's like a 30-point game, they're pretty much they're gonna stay out there. So. We also saw, I think Draymond's going to continue to start a point guard where DraftKings has already moved him to point guard small forward, which actually isn't terrible. You can't play him at power forward anymore, but you can play him at the forward spot, you can play him at the guard spot, you can play him at point guard and shoot small forward. I like all that. It definitely helps you get to Draymond. We saw the experiment work out pretty well last night against Memphis. Obviously a pretty solid matchup for it to for him to have. Obviously pace up and not a great defense, but almost had a triple-double. Probably would have got it if he didn't get injured in, I believe, the third quarter last night. So I like Draymond at this price. It's not the best of matchups, but I do think that he has a lot of upside here at 6K, and especially if he's starting to get comfortable playing that point guard position while D'Angelo Russell is out. He makes some sense. I also think that Alec Burks still. I think if this slate was made after last night, Alec Burks would be probably around 5,600. So we're getting a little bit of a discount here on Alec Burks still. He's a solid fantasy point per minute producer. He's gonna grab some boards, he's gonna get you some assists, and he's gonna do a lot of shooting. Especially with no D'Angelo Russell in the lineup. We saw him shoot 15 times last night, 13 times in the game before with no Russell. He's going to do plenty of shooting, so that really gives him a ton of upside, along with a decent peripheral floor here, averaging 4 rebounds, 2 assists per game, but that's going to come up in games that he's starting. So I like him. I think he has a very solid floor. And then, obviously, one last injury situation that we should talk about. Obviously, look for who starts in Chicago. If Kobe White gets to start, he does sometimes come in for Hutchinson straight up off the bench. I mean, Kobe White will often close games, but White will be the one coming off the bench for Hutchinson. So we'll have to see what happens with that. If they want to start Kobe White today, what they want to do. Chris Dunn could also be a guy who starts. Just kind of have to see what happens with that. It's an 8 p.m. lock. Most of these games are early locks or early-ish locks. So if White starts, I definitely love his minutes floor. And then for Cleveland, we have injury news with Tristan Thompson out again. Obviously, a lot of people down last game. I think he was in foul trouble at some point in that game, and so we missed out on a little bit of minutes in that game. But with Thompson out, you're going to see Love start, and you're going to see Love is back. He's good to go, and then you're going to see Larry Nance start. So Nance is someone who's I think could end up becoming very chalky, and I don't know how I feel about that. He's gonna play the 5, and he's very solid when he plays the 5. But and he's gonna be about a 1 fantasy point per minute producer. So if he's getting like 28 minutes here, he is crushing value pretty easily on a slate where there's not a ton of like smash value. It's not the best of matchups against Miami. They don't allow a lot of points in the paint. They don't allow a ton of second chance opportunities. So yeah, I mean, I think Nance can definitely get here at 5x. Because of his fantasy point per minute production. He is in that point per minute production comes next to Kevin Love. So that's kind of what kind of production we've been getting from him at the 5 this year. I think he's a solid value play. I'm not going to argue against it. And then Kevin Love also definitely in play. Miami not playing as pace up as they were to start the year, but still definitely not playing like slow or anything like that. So. And especially when they have none running the point, but although they're not doing that all that often. But I guess they're doing it a decent amount actually. Now I'm thinking about it, yeah, they do actually run him. I think he helps the team move up in pace a decent amount as well. I think they get into a lot more sets with drafting and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be the end of those guys. In terms of like my core guys, I'm kind of considering. There's more in there, of course. I mean, I don't say that. This is just the video, format of the analysis. So the lock sheet will have all the guys that I'm really interested in. But let's go ahead and go through the studs. Obviously, Giannis is still going to be very much in play for me. I don't know where his ownership's going to be because people might be concerned about the blowout. People might have saw that 55 points the other day. But look, he only had 2 assists in that game. He only played 34 minutes in that game. I guess that actually wasn't that low. He's usually going to be around 36. That's pretty solid projection for him to see to 36. But yeah, I mean, he just didn't get the assist really in that game, and that's what brought it down. Also, we're used to seeing him grab 14 rebounds. Didn't do that against Chicago either, which Chicago has been a very solid rebounding team this year. So yeah, I mean, when he's still around 2 fantasy points per minute without Middleton, you can expect that to drop to like 1.9 or 1.8. But I mean, this is a cake matchup, and he's gonna be when he's on the floor, especially if this game stays even remotely close, which is gonna rely on Trae Young. I mean, pretty much just Trae Young, if we're being honest. But if this game stays close and Giannis gets to his minutes ceiling, 36, his minutes projection, I guess is what I should say, he's going to be able to smash this price, averaging the fantasy point per minute that he is, more times than he's not, especially in this matchup against Atlanta. That, like I said, I really think that when you're watching this game, Giannis is just going to have a free-for-all with this team. Obviously, I still have a lot of interest in Luka Doncic. 10.4K, not like as smashed as he was the other day at 9.8K, but you add the 600, but you also get a much better matchup against Golden State, who's bottom 3 in defensive efficiency, and just the fact that this dude is so consistent. Like, you're getting a price of 10.4 where value is 52 points, 5x is 52 points. I know it's not like gonna kill, it's not gonna like crush it in tournaments if he's only scoring 52, but in cash games, like 52 is what you're looking for, at least 52, and obviously you have the upside for those 70-point games. And he's just really not failing on that at that price. Especially not against a Golden State team that runs decent pace and also does not runs decent in pace and also does just doesn't play good defense. And then lastly, of course, like I said, I have some interest in Trae Young at 9.4K. Mostly as an interesting GPP stack with Giannis, although when I looked before this video, he is coming in decently owned, around like 20%. So I definitely think Trae Young is going to get you here to 5x here at this price more often than he's not, especially with the usage he's been getting and the assist rate that he has with no Collins. But he's not going to, if he's not shooting as efficiently, where these 60% games, 54% games, it is going to be kind of tough for him to get there, to be honest with you. He's not shooting quite, for the most part, at the volume that he was when Collins first went out, when we saw this 22-30 game. He got 22 last game, but, before that, 18 and 16. So I think he's still an interesting GPP play and someone that I would love to stack up with Giannis, because I think he's going to be relied on to keep this game close. So those are the 3 studs I want to talk about. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am Christian Hardy, at BuyHardy on Twitter. Please follow me there. Please hit the subscribe button. Comment with your favorite cash game play of the day, and you'll be entered to win that free season pass from Locks DFS. We will be picking that tonight on the Thursday night video. And with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys back here next time.